without any further ado here, let's get our man Jon I hope I don't butcher Zaghloul from Sports Talk Chicago is going to hop on. So, hey, Jon, how you doing, man?
Hey, guys, great to see you. Thank you for having me. So happy to be here. Looking forward to talking about yesterday's game. A close one at that. I think a lot of Bears fans were pretty surprised, including myself, as to what we saw and how it went.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, listen, I really appreciate you hopping on, and I was talking about this earlier because, especially for us as Eagles fans, I mean, obviously we had Jalen Hurts in his second year last year, and you guys have Justin Fields in his second year this year. And I personally, I see a lot of comparisons as far as last year, Hurts was making a lot of plays. The pass game wasn't as advanced, but Hurts would find a way to make plays. And this kid Fields, I mean, he's not quite there yet, I guess, as a passer, but I mean, he's a hell of a weapon. And with the way you guys have a high draft pick and all the salary cap space that you're going to have, I really think that if you make the right move, that we could actually see a kind of an interesting Eagles-Bears rivalry develop and a Hurts versus Fields rivalry. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I fully agree with that entire statement. I think it's very exciting if you're a Bears fan right now. There's so much to look forward to, so many good things to look forward to. Justin Fields has turned into his own as a quarterback, and pretty funny because earlier this season he was not good. Hey, first couple of weeks there were mock drafts coming out saying the Bears should draft Bryce Young at number 2, and that was real. And that happened because his performance was not good. Turned things around over the past maybe 7 or 8 games, and he's been looking amazing. The Bears are tanking actively, in my opinion, and although I'm not a big tanking guy, it's working. They have the number 2 overall pick as of today. Rumors are they might move back and even accumulate more picks since they don't need a quarterback or something along those lines with that number 2 pick. So that might happen. They have over $120+ million in cap space for next year. They have a lot of dead money this year because they got rid of Khalil Mack and maybe Strange, Robert Quinn. But they have tons of money available next year to spend. So you have a quarterback who you think you can build around, who needs some improvement. We can talk about that in a second. You have great draft positioning for next year and moving forward. Then on top of that, you have so much money to spend. This is a great situation for the Bears. And I think, as you said perfectly, a lot of parallels to Philadelphia, to Jalen Hurts, to what happened to the Eagles over the past couple of seasons. You bring in a new coach, you have Jalen Hurts, everybody's kind of wishy-washy on him for right reason. They kind of sneak into the playoffs last year. They get bounced right away. This year was supposed to be a prove-it year for Hurts, and he's certainly proven it. I think he's a very valid MVP candidate at this point. He might end up winning the award when it's all said and done. Nick Sirianni looks like a genius, and this Eagles team is extremely talented. And I think we could be saying the same thing for the Bears in 2 or 3 years. I wouldn't say next year, but I think next year's where the Eagles could be last year. That's where I'm kind of thinking. Maybe a 10-7 record, maybe sneaking into the playoffs, and the year after that, I think it's going to be time for them to dominate.
Yeah, and it's so funny to actually talk about the Bears having a quarterback, right? I mean, I always equate Bears quarterbacks to we're Flyers fans here in Philadelphia. I equate Bears quarterbacks to Philadelphia Flyers goalies. I mean, we've never, you know what I mean? It's pretty much neither team really has ever had one. I mean, you have an issue when Jay Cutler is one of your top quarterbacks. You're like, wow. You know what I'm saying? That's rough,
Yeah, no, definitely. People, I was a big Mitch Trubisky guy, okay? And, love him or hate him, I liked him a lot. But it's pretty telling, even as a Mitch Trubisky guy, when he is the best passer rating in Bears history, you got a problem. When he is the highest passer rating amongst all Bears quarterbacks who've ever played for this team, historic franchise, and that's your best guy, you got an issue. Jay Cutler, obviously, too, played for the Bears for a long time, but it's so funny. They trade away so much to get him. Always hurts. Having issues, didn't show up in the 2010 playoff game when he probably should have played and should have toughed it out and played through it. And then on top of it, never had a season similar to what he did the year before in Denver when he passed for 4,000 yards and made the Pro Bowl. Never made another Pro Bowl, never passed for 4,000 yards again. The Bears gave up so many first-round picks, Kyle Orton, tons of players to get Jay Cutler. And I'll tell you what, didn't really work out as planned, in my opinion. Went through regime change, went through different coaches and different coordinators. I get that. I'm not saying it's all on him, but he was not as advertised for the Bears, in my opinion, based on what they gave up based on what he did in Denver versus when he came to Chicago.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, I mean, so you were saying that right now you guys would have the second pick. I guess I know you traded your second round pick for Claypool, so I would think a quarterback you're in a prime position to move down. I mean, especially with all the needs the Bears have. I mean, from my perspective, I guess you would say maybe you need some offensive line help. I mean, or you need help in a lot of places, right?
Yeah, you guys are the third most sacked team in the NFL with 48 sacks given up this year. So, and it was proven yesterday. So, yeah, I'm assuming you guys will get offensive line help. And once you do that, like I said earlier, Fields ran for 1,000 yards already this year. Last year, not even 500. So, maybe it was the scheming, the game planning, but also like he's running for his life a lot of the plays. So, as long as you get that help and the receivers that you have now, I think you guys will be definitely good. I really think you guys should load up on the offensive line.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, the Bears certainly need some offensive line help. They could use some edge rushing help and then also wide receiving help as well. The Bears yesterday, their number one guy was EQ St. Brown until he went down hurt, and then they were on their fourth or fifth wide receiver acting as their number one. So I think those three positions are mainly what the Bears need to focus on. I fully agree, though. I mean, at number two, not needing a quarterback, they could pull off what the Bears got pulled off on them in 2017. They traded up for Mitch Trubisky by one spot. They gave up tons of picks. One of those picks turned into Alvin Kamara and a bunch of others. Those were eventually flipped to the Saints and went to the 49ers. So maybe the Bears could pull something off there and have a little bit of revenge in this upcoming draft. But it's certainly possible. It's good that they don't need a quarterback. I think that's the very encouraging part. Now you could trade down a little bit, find a good edge rusher, find a great offensive lineman or two, find a wide receiver in those second and third rounds who you can build around a little bit and have him develop next year with Justin Fields. Find some sort of chemistry because the Bears are certainly wide receiver needy as well, even with the Claypool trade. Claypool's out for the year now, actually, too. So, there are a lot of needs for them, but the good thing is, to me, they're all correctable. They're all doable based on the salary cap situation and then based on their draft positioning for next year. So, needs and holes for sure, but ways to get those off the books and done.
Are you guys confident with David Montgomery as your running back, or you think you guys will move forward?
Yeah. That's a good question. That's been a big topic of conversation here as we've watched Montgomery play these last couple of games. Of course, he's going to be wanting some money. His contract's coming up. The old adage is don't pay a running back. I mean, I would be okay if the Bears gave him a 2-year contract, maybe max at $10 million per year, average annual value. My problem with that is, or probably what Montgomery's problem is going to be, is that it's not long enough and it doesn't pay enough. Saquon Barkley right now, their estimates that he's going to be going for $14 to $15 million per year, depending on the team that signs him. So Montgomery naturally is probably going to want more money somewhere near there, and no one's really going to want to pay that for him. Then on top of it, he's a little bit older, been with the Bears for a long time, and doesn't have that Saquon Barkley type track record, but he's probably going to want to be paid similar to what Barkley gets, and then also with the year component as well. So I'd love David Montgomery. I'd love for the Bears to bring him back. I think it'd be great. He fits in well with their system. Great two-dimensional running back, which is hard to find these days. But the problem is, how much is he going to want, and what type of year commitment is he looking for? And then what will the Bears do? I mean, 2 years at $10 million each per year would be my full-go asking price, and that'd be a price that I'd be okay with the Bears paying. But anything more than that, both on years or average annual value, I feel like that would just be too much when you have Khalil Herbert, who's going to be coming off IR. You got Tristan Ebner and Darrington Evans, another young guy who you could easily plug and play into that RB2 spot, then have Herbert become your starter next year.
Okay.
Well, one thing going your way is if teams are going to want to pay running backs in the free agency market, I don't think it's going to be David Montgomery with guys like Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, players that I feel like have a better track record and a little bit more upside than David Montgomery, in my opinion. So the Bears might look out there where the free agency market isn't where he wants it to be. The money's not where he wants to be. So he goes back to where he's comfortable at on the best contract he's probably going to get on the open market.
I mean, that's a great point. And, there are a lot of guys, even the Bears are tied to an extent, Saquon Barkley and Miles Sanders. I've heard a lot of talk about the Bears maybe coming to Miles Sanders and offering him something significant.
Okay. No, stay away.
Okay. I'd be okay with them keeping Montgomery, maybe even a 3-year deal with an $8 million average annual value, if that's the case, because you could find a way where you have all these big-time running backs. There's like a tier 1 then a tier 2. Montgomery's on that tier 2 level. Maybe the Bears could finagle something and keep Montgomery for a lower price because of all these other elite running backs like Jacobs and Sanders and Barkley who are going to be out there. That's certainly within consideration.
Yep.
Yeah, I got a comment here from my man Paul Spencer. He's on he's a Cowboys fan. He does a 215 Cowboys show, but he's got a point here about your draft. He says Paris Johnson, offensive tackle, Ohio State. Fields had him recruited to OSU, so maybe he'd be a possibility for your O-line.
That would be great. I mean, I just want somebody for this Bears offensive line that's going to be more of a higher talented guy. So this Bears offensive line is so out there. Like, they have undrafted guys playing. They got 7th rounders, 6th rounders playing. Some of these guys are playing different positions than what they were drafted for. So no matter what, I'm looking for talent. I'm looking for a specimen, somebody who's going to get down to the trenches, make plays, and somebody who has a lot of talent who could be a 1st or 2nd round pick. Paris Johnson would be great on top of it because there is that chemistry there. Certainly some trust for Fields knowing, hey, I know who this guy is. He's defended me before. He could do it again now at the pro level. That would be nice. But, I mean, that's just me from the outside looking in. I'd like somebody with some talent. This Bears offensive line for years has been a mishmash of sometimes random guys being signed off the street, undrafted guys coming through out of the blue. It'd be nice to see some elite talent offensively, like Kevin Jenkins, who's turned it on for the Bears this year, got hurt in yesterday's game. Our 2nd round pick should have been a 1st round pick if it wasn't for his back issues, who's turned into a very impressive season for the Bears offensively on that line. He's been projected as the only one who's going to stay from that line for next year. You bring in more talent like that, some 1st round specimens or 2nd round specimens who we know are supposed to be good, that'll help out Fields in the long run, even starting next year.
Yeah. So anyway, real quick, just to harp on yesterday's game, like, what was your, I mean, we have our perspective because we're all Eagles fans. You know what I mean? But what was your perspective on the Philadelphia Eagles team as far as out of all the opponents you had? Were the Eagles, as far as your thoughts on them being Super Bowl contenders? What was your impression as a Bears fan of the Eagles?
I think they are a Super Bowl contender on paper, but I just wasn't impressed with their performance yesterday specifically. Jalen Hurts 2 picks, no touchdowns. He was struggling all game against the Bears defense that's ranked near the last part of the league. I mean, it's the bottom tier of the league for sure. So I followed the Eagles for most of this year. I've watched some of their games, bits and pieces of them. I think they are a Super Bowl contender, and the numbers don't lie. I mean, you have the number 1 offense and the number 1 defense, essentially. So I'm all for that, but I think the problem is for some reason, the Bears played them very close yesterday. Too close, in my opinion.
How cold was it yesterday?
It was great. I mean, it was great to watch. I was excited as a Bears guy because I predicted the final score would be 31-17 Bears lost, and I thought it was being generous. I really didn't think it would be as close as it was, and it turned out to be that way. The Bears were winning, for a certain time, and this game was a close one. So I think for Eagles fans, trying to reconcile, hey, what do we make of this game? I mean, we almost lost to a pretty crappy Bears team. That's probably more of a concern, I would assume, from a Chicago perspective than anything else. I think this Eagles team is certainly a Super Bowl contender. They have the pieces, they have the weapons, they have the production, usually. But for some reason, they just didn't show up to play yesterday too much. They still pulled off the win because they're way more talented than this Bears team that's going to be completely overturned in a matter of a couple of weeks. There are going to be tons of players who won't be on this team anymore. Right. But I would be concerned if I were in Philly about how close the game was. Not saying that they're bad or, this team has issues. They don't. But personally, I'm still trying to understand why it was as close as it was. That's just me. From watching that game, I don't understand why it was that close. I thought it should have been more of a blowout. Maybe you attribute that to Justin Fields playing his ass off and making plays, which he's certainly capable of doing. But I would have thought it would have been a much wider spread on that score. I thought it was going to be a blowout, and it turned out to be much closer. So great for Bears fans, but I'm sure Eagles fans have things to be concerned about today.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll admit I was a little concerned going in because it had the makings of a classic trap game. I mean, we crushed the Giants last week. And then we have Dallas coming up this week. So playing the Bears in between, especially a 3-win. I know Jalen Hurts and the players gave the Bears a lot of credit, as far as talent wise, because you guys lost a lot of close games. But when you look at a team with 3 wins, I don't care what you say. Those guys look at that record, and you guys have talent, but they're like, all right, these guys have 3 wins. It's human nature to kind of possibly, maybe have a little look ahead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. And that makes sense too. I mean, you got to remember, and I'm sure everybody in the NFL knows this, the Bears on top of it made midseason trades. Goodbye to Robert Quinn. Goodbye to Roquan Smith. Justin Fields was hurt, hasn't played all year. He's been kind of in and out of injuries. When he's played, he's been great, but even he did not play well at the beginning of the year. So there are a lot of questions and a lot of mediocrity that you see when you're entering a matchup against the Bears. So maybe there's a situation where, Philadelphia was like, okay, whatever, we'll kind of lay off the gas a little bit. And then it got close, and they had to really step up late in the fourth quarter to win that game. That's for sure. But it is surprising still to me, and pleasantly surprising at that this Bears team played Philly that close, considering where these two organizations are going. I mean, Philadelphia is probably going to be in the NFC Championship game minimum, if not the Super Bowl. And this Bears team is going to be picking number 2 in the NFL draft. So an extreme on each side, and some other Bears playing close. That's, I think, more of a credit to them than what the Eagles did.
Gotcha, man. Well, hey, listen, John, I really appreciate you hopping on. And like I said, if things go the way I think they may possibly go, who knows? We'll have you on again, because this possibly can turn into a heck of a rivalry.
Oh, 100%. And I appreciate all you guys for having me on. I know Patrick always supported me on Facebook, which I appreciate, and it's great to meet all you guys. Great show, great questions. So happy to come on anytime you guys need me moving forward.
Hey, no problem. And real quick, why don't you tell the people out there where they can check you out?
Sure. Just Sports Talk Chicago. You search it up on YouTube. We have 18,000 subscribers there, growing on Twitter and Facebook as well. But you go to Sports Talk Chicago on YouTube or sportstalkchicago.com. We do videos and podcasts. We have guests on. Recently had Olin Kreutz on from the Bears. We have former football players, former basketball, baseball players come on, and also media members who cover everything Chicago and national sports. You can find me at all those places.
Hey, cool. Hey, well, thanks a lot, man. Hey, and, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and good luck to you.
Thank you, guys. Enjoyed it for sure.
Thank you.
Have a good one, man.
Yeah.
All right. See you, man.